Most people think danger announces itself with noise, with explosions, alarms, chaos, or sudden violence. But the most dangerous moments in human history often arrive in silence, quietly, without warning. And when they do, there is no audience, no drama, no second chance. There is only time slowly running out. The ocean is one of the few places on Earth where that silence becomes absolute. Below the surface, sound behaves differently. Light disappears, distance becomes meaningless, and survival depends not on strength or courage, but on discipline, patience, and the ability to remain calm while waiting for help that may never come. This is not a story about heroism in the traditional sense. There are no battles, no enemies to defeat, no dramatic last words. This is a story about two ordinary men who went to work on an ordinary day, believing they would return home by nightfall. Men who trusted their equipment, their training, and the systems designed to keep them alive. Instead, they were swallowed by the ocean. For nearly 3 days, they remained trapped beneath hundreds of meters of water, cut off from communication, surrounded by darkness, and aware that every breath brought them closer to the end. Above them, the world continued as usual. People slept, worked, and lived their lives, unaware that two men were slowly running out of time below the sea. What happened during those 76 hours is a testament not to luck, but to human endurance, to the fragile line that separates life from death, and to the reality that sometimes survival depends not on escape, but on waiting. Waiting in darkness, waiting in silence, waiting long enough for hope to find you. This is the true story of the men who survived one of the deepest underwater rescues ever attempted. They were alive, but no one could reach them. In August of 1973, two men entered the ocean in a small submersible known as Pisces III. Their mission was not heroic, not experimental, not dangerous, at least not on paper. They were there to repair a transatlantic telephone cable on the ocean floor, off the coast of Ireland. It was routine work, technical, quiet, and yet within hours, it would become one of the most extreme survival stories ever recorded. Roger Chapman was the pilot. Roger Mallinson was the observer. Both were experienced. Both had done this before. The Pisces III was designed to dive deep, but not to fail. That day it did. As the submersible descended, light faded quickly. At 480 meters below the surface, the ocean was absolute darkness. No sunlight, no reference, only pressure. Outside the hull, the water pressed in with hundreds of tons of force. Inside, the men trusted the machine until they heard the sound. A sudden jolt, then another. The submersible dropped, not slowly, not gently. It fell. The Pisces III slammed into the seabed. In that instant, everything changed. The power failed. The controls went dark. The submersible was alive but blind. And worse, it was stuck. Chapman tried to maneuver. Nothing responded. They were resting on the ocean floor, tilted, unstable. Then came the realization that froze them both. The ballast system had failed. Without it, the submersible could not rise. They were trapped, nearly half a kilometer below the surface. No rescue vehicle was designed to reach them easily. No quick response existed, and their oxygen supply was limited, very limited. The clock had started. At first, they remained calm. They calculated. They estimated oxygen levels. They adjusted their breathing. Every breath mattered now. Each inhale brought them closer to the end. The temperature inside the Pisces III began to drop. Cold crept in slowly. Their hands stiffened. Condensation formed on the walls. Water dripped inside. Time passed differently in the dark. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt endless. They could not see each other clearly. They could only hear breathing and the faint hum of life support. Above them on the surface, no one knew yet what had happened. The Pisces III had not returned, and soon concern turned into alarm. The surface crew realized the submersible was overdue. Communication had been lost. No signals, no position, only silence. The worst possibility became real. The Pisces III was missing. Search operations began immediately. Ships moved into position. Sonar scanned the depths. But finding something so small in such a vast ocean was nearly impossible. Meanwhile, below, Chapman and Mallinson waited. They conserved energy. They spoke less. They moved carefully. Every movement consumed oxygen. The cold intensified. Their bodies began to shake. They could feel time slipping away. They knew exactly how much oxygen remained, and they knew it was not enough for long. At some point, they stopped counting hours. They started counting breaths. The psychological pressure was immense. Total darkness, total isolation, no sense of rescue, just the knowledge that death was approaching silently. At the surface, engineers faced an impossible challenge. No rescue vehicle in the area was rated to operate at that depth. What followed was an unprecedented international effort. British, American, and Canadian teams coordinated. Ships were rerouted. Experimental submersibles were deployed. One of them was Pisces II. Another was Pisces V. None of this had been tested in a real rescue before. Everything was being invented in real time. Every decision carried risk. Below, the two men began to accept something terrifying. Rescue might not come. They discussed what would happen when oxygen ran out. They made plans. They spoke quietly. They tried to remain human. They shared memories. Thoughts of family surfaced. Regret. Hope. Then silence again. The temperature dropped further. Their fingers lost sensation. Condensation turned into ice. The submersible felt like a tomb. Above, after hours of searching, sonar finally detected something. A small object. On the seabed. At nearly 500 meters. It was the Pisces III. But finding it was only the beginning. Reaching it was another matter entirely. Your mind begins to adjust to a reality it was never meant to accept. You become intensely aware of your own presence, of your body occupying a confined space that was not designed for comfort or fear. The air feels heavier with every breath, not because it is changing yet, but because you know it will. The silence is not empty. It is filled with expectation. With thoughts you did not invite, with calculations you try not to make. Time stretches, not moving forward, but outward, expanding into something difficult to measure. You notice small details you would normally ignore. The rhythm of breathing, the faint vibrations of metal, the subtle shift of temperature against your skin. Your senses sharpen, not out of curiosity, but necessity. There is no distraction here, no escape into noise or light. Only awareness. Awareness that this moment will define everything that follows. You understand that help, if it comes, will not come quickly. That decisions made far above the surface will take time to reach you. And in that waiting, something changes. Fear does not arrive suddenly. It settles slowly, quietly, like the cold. Not as panic, but as clarity. A realization that survival is no longer about action, but endurance. About remaining present. About continuing to breathe even when every instinct tells you to rush, to move, to react. You are no longer measuring distance in meters or depth, but in patience, in restraint, in the ability to remain human when nothing around you feels human anymore. Pisces II descended first. Visibility was near zero. Pilots relied on instruments alone. The seabed appeared slowly, and there it was, the Pisces III, resting silently, its crew alive. Barely. Attempts to attach lifting cables failed. The currents were strong. The angle was wrong. Time was almost gone. Oxygen levels inside Pisces III were critically low. Chapman and Mallinson could barely move. Their voices were weak. Breathing was shallow. Rescue teams knew this was the final window. Then came Pisces V, designed for deep operations. Its pilot maneuvered carefully, slowly, precisely. At this depth, one mistake meant death. The lifting cable finally connected. The moment was fragile. The rescue submersible began to rise. Meters passed. Then something went wrong. The cable snapped. The Pisces III fell back to the seabed. Hope collapsed instantly. Above, despair spread. Below, the men felt the impact. They knew this might be the end. Oxygen was almost gone. Carbon dioxide levels were rising. Unconsciousness was close. One last attempt was made. Pisces V descended again. Another connection. Another lift. This time, the ascent continued. Slow, painfully slow. Minutes passed, then hours. Pressure decreased. Light slowly returned. When the Pisces III finally broke the surface, over 70 hours had passed. The hatch was opened. Fresh air rushed in. Chapman and Mallinson were pulled out, alive, against all odds. They had survived in total darkness, under extreme pressure, with oxygen nearly exhausted. It was one of the most extraordinary rescues ever achieved, not because it was flawless, but because it was human, improvised, desperate, and driven by the refusal to accept loss. In the end, the ocean did not win. Time did not win. Darkness did not win. Hope survived, even in the deepest silence. How long can hope survive in the dark? In this case, just long enough. Roger Chapman and Roger Mallinson did not survive because they were stronger than anyone else. They survived because they remained calm when panic would have been easier, because they understood that discipline could buy time, and time could buy life. Their story is rarely told, not because it lacks importance, but because it happened quietly. No headlines that lasted, no monuments, just two men who returned to the surface and continued living, carrying an experience few humans will ever know. Stories like this remind us how fragile survival truly is, and how thin the line can be between being remembered and being forgotten. If this story stayed with you, if it made you pause, reflect, or see the world differently, then there are many more like it waiting to be told. On this channel, we share true stories of survival, disappearance, and human endurance. Stories that history often overlooks, but that deserve to be remembered. If you want to hear more real stories like this, consider subscribing. New documentaries are released regularly. Liking the video helps others find these stories, and your support allows this channel to continue bringing them to light. Thank you for watching. And until the next story, stay curious and stay aware of how close silence can be.